Hello, everybody. We got the top daytime music active right now. I'm wearing the tie. You know what that means. We got a little bit more Pokemon Sleep news. Now, I gotta say, this news gonna be a little bit shorter than some of my other videos, but I still want to talk a little bit about this stuff. Basically, tonight, well, tonight for me, it's the day for a lot of other people around the world. The new Pokemon have now been released to some people, and we're starting to see a bit of their ingredient lists. Now, you're gonna have to forgive me, because as of the time of this video, I do not have all the information. Now, uh, I wanted to wait for the C ingredient to be confirmed on the Vikavolt and the Luxray. However, it is pretty late, and I gotta get to bed, so I decided to call it quits and just talk about the A and the B ingredients. If there is something drastically meta-breaking in the C ingredients for either of these, I will leave it in the description, and just read it there, and I'll probably put a pinned comment as well. So, but I do want to talk about the information that we know right now, which is their A and B ingredients on the Vikavolt and the Luxray, and all three of the new Beans certified Aggron build. Now, let's talk about Luxray first, because it's the one that I'm honestly the most disappointed about. Unfortunately, it's got tomato and oil. Now, it's C ingredient. This is still speculation, but C ingredient's probably coffee. Just because we'd assume coffee would be on all three of the new Mons since it's a new ingredient. It's not guaranteed yet, though. That could be speculation as of the time of this video, so call me out and think. However, synergy. So, mono tomatoes, crappy. We have a lot of mono tomato Pokemon in this game. We don't need another one. So then really, what's it going to offer new that the other ones don't offer? And mostly we're looking at synergy with the oil and the tomatoes. Now, when we look at this synergy, in terms of the top tier meals, there isn't really too much going for it. I mean, we got the green grass salad with the oil and the tomato here. And it does need more oil than it does tomato, which is kind of what you would get if you had the ABB build. However, this is better covered by, like, a Victory Bell or Mime, and then, like, a Dragonite with ABC lists, so I'm not really sure there's really anything there. Maybe, but you'd have to have the right Pokemon. I wouldn't hunt for it. I just don't recommend hunting the Luxray. It definitely is the worst of the three Pokemon here. Don't be spending your biscuits on the Luxray, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it really doesn't have much synergy with other electric-type Pokemon ingredients as well. Because if we think about electric-type ingredients, you got Jolteon making milk and cacao. You have Raichu making apples and ginger. And you got... I don't even know what Raiku's list is. I think it has sausage and... Here, we'll do a quick little mini research. Let's see. What's the Raiku's ingredients list? I know it's got sausage. Sausage, herb, leek. So... I mean, yeah, it's kind of DOA. They didn't really give it a good list, unfortunately, because it's just got too much competition for Mono Tomato. People are going to have Mono Tomato before they get there, so even if it's really, really good, the fact that it's only available at the Old World Power Plant at the moment means that it is just going to be never really used, because no one's going to need that many tomatoes, and by the time that they get there, they probably already have a good Mono Tomato farmer. So, it's just kind of weird to say, but Luxray, unfortunately, kind of a flop. There's a little bit here with the Overheat Ginger and the Spore Mushroom Salad, maybe, because there's some overlap, especially with the ginger, and if you have, like, a Gengar, you can make a mix here. But unless you already have the team that's designed for it, I wouldn't even recommend thinking that. It's just like if it happens to complement your team, maybe go for it, but overall... probably gonna be pretty sad. Even with a jacked ingredient rate, I don't see this guy getting any meta significance. So it just hurts me to say. I wanted Luxray to be good so badly. Fortunately for me though, it was kind of I thought Luxray was cool, but it's not my favorite of the three. I personally, Aggron and Vikavolt are some of my favorite Pokemon of all time. So I think it's cool to see them have some real interesting stuff to discuss. Now, Vikavolt, I think is primarily going to be used for the mono coffee build, since it is the only one with the mono coffee. But I think something very interesting in particular is Vikavolt having coffee and mushrooms, specifically. Now, if you have like the AAC list, and you're producing them in roughly equal quantities, you're not going to be able to get like the right ratio here, but there's just some interesting ideas there. Also with the, I think it's Doug Trio. Doug Trio, I believe, gets tomato and soybeans. It gets soybeans as a C ingredient. So this can maybe give a little more lifeblood to the Doug Trio that didn't really have it before. If it can maybe pull out this many ingredients, you're probably going to need to supplement it, because all these new meals are so massive that, like, you're not going to be really making any of them with just 2 Pokemon. But, like, on event weeks, you can maybe make it with just 2 Pokemon if you just give them a little bit of extra stockpile ingredients, so that you can consistently make it across the course of the week. So that's kind of what we're thinking about with this. And I think that's a neat idea, neat concept. And I think there's some potential in the Vikavolt with the AAB list or the ABA list or something like that, just to make that mushroom and the cacao, or the coffee. Sorry, I'm going to say cacao and coffee a lot because they're both beans, but it's throwing me off. Coffee. So, the new coffee, interesting thing there with the Vikavolt. Like I said, still looking for its C ingredient, as information is unknown. But, oh, actually, I'm looking at my Discord right now, and somebody just found out that Grubbin, and this is a live reaction from me, Vikavolt has 11 honey as its C ingredient. Now, let's live check out and evaluate if that has any synergy. I'm not really seeing any. By the way, I excluded any meal with below 25% meal bonus, because generally speaking, they're not really meta relevant. I think these new meals are going to push them even further down in meta relevance. So maybe the early bird coffee jelly might be a little bit of stuff there if it has AAC, because then you're making a little bit more coffee, making a little bit of that stuff. If you have a good milk Pokemon, one nice thing about milk is that if you have a good mono Eevee, that's good at doing its skill, it can just passively make the milk on the side. So I kind of think of milk as like a non-ingredient ingredient. So there's actually some interesting stuff there with the Vikavolt as well, I feel like. Other than that, though, I'm not seeing too much for honey and coffee. So I think that's primarily what they were thinking with that. Something that I really like about this update is a lot of these Pokemon seem to have planned them out with meal synergy in mind. I think they're targeting a more synergistic playstyle rather than playing into the mono build so much. They want to give Pokemon unique identities by having these synergistic combos, I feel like, because at least with Vikavolt and with Aggron, tons of synergy. Don't know what they were thinking with Luxray, but with Vikavolt and those guys, awesome. So, okay, Aggron. Aggron's the bean man, the bean master. He's got beans. He's got bean sausage, he's got coffee beans, and he's got soybeans. I think this is funny, and I love it that the community put beans certified over him, because, man, this man's got the beans. Now, what sort of synergy exists here? Well, I think something very interesting is the Defiant Coffee Just Salad kind of sticks out to me. One big question is, will he power creep Charizard as the mono bean sausage option? I think that there's some potential there, maybe. I mean, we'll have to know once we see its ingredient rate, but as of right now, we won't know. Given that it has the Charge Energy S, and it was kind of introduced as the, like, semi-pseudo option. It's not really a pseudo, because it's probably not going to be leveling the same way the pseudos do, since its candy requirement is lower than them. So, given that, he's not going to be as expensive as the pseudo, so he's probably not going to be as good as them. But given that he's being introduced to a new island, I think he's intended to somewhat power creep the Charizard for mono bean sausage, but I think he's got more potential in his ingredient list. That being the synergy of sausage and coffee beans. Something very, very intriguing here is that if you have the, like, AAC list, granted, you'll be a little bit underproducing on the coffee beans, and you'll be overproducing on the bean sausage with that list, but it's pretty close in terms of what it can get here. And a previously useless Pokemon, well, not really useless, but one that a lot of people forgot about was the Cramorant. Now, something very intriguing about Cramorant is that, as you can see, it's got potatoes and oil. Now, Cramorant, unfortunately, isn't that good, and it makes them in even proportions. You get the AAB list, very interestingly, which, as you can see here, you would need potatoes and oil in perfectly even proportions. Now, unfortunately, you're just never going to reach those ratios with the Cramorant, even with good camp ticket. And Cramorant is really expensive to hunt because it's a 16-pip Pokemon. It is a single stage, so like you're talking really intensive hunt. And unfortunately, you'd be looking for an AAB list, which, given that it has the A in the second slot, it is a more rare list. So it's like the rarity of looking for a mono option. And you're doing that on a 16-pip Pokemon, which if you've seen people's horror stories of how long they've searched for Delibird, you know that is not easy. So while I think this is interesting, I think that it's more like Aggron can cover this, and then you have like maybe a Meowscarada covering potatoes, or a Golem or something else covering potatoes, or oil. Maybe you have a good Toxicroak, and then the Toxicroak can assist in the sausage. In fact, I think that's actually something kind of neat. If you have a good Toxicroak, you can cover the oil and the sausage, and then you can make it so that you could run the Aggron with ABB instead of AAB. If you do that, then you're going to get more of the beans, or the coffee beans, which means since the Toxicroak's picking up some of the bean sausage production and doing the oil, then just ideally you'd be doing this for a stockpiled week where you're making a big meal for an event over a good camp ticket week. And then you can just make the potatoes prior to the week with something else that can actually produce the potatoes and backstock them. So you're effectively covering the new strongest meal in the game with just 2 Pokemon, which I think has a lot of potential. But once again, we also got a new bean sausage option if you want to use it as a mono option. Soybeans, on the other hand, I mean, my music cut out. That was weird. There we go. Soybeans is a little bit of stuff with this hidden power perk ups too. And, you know, if you have the AAC list, maybe there's something there. We don't know what Aggron's ingredient rate looks like quite yet. But, maybe. I'll keep an eye out for it. I don't think it's going to hit that amount, because getting 28 per meal off of only having the C ingredient. Now, granted, the C ingredient is the highest productivity of the 3. But I would expect you'd need at least B and C, or A and C, to get 28 off of something. Unless this thing is absolutely just jacked. In which case, then maybe there's something. But yeah, overall, I think this is more the Vikavolt realm with having the mushrooms and the coffee beans. Or Vikavolt could just be our mono option if you want to play into the mono meta. You don't have to listen to anything that I say about ingredient synergy. I just think it's interesting, and I think more people should be aware of it. So, yeah, I think that's primarily my assessment of the 3 new Pokemon. I think Luxray, unfortunately, not good. Isn't designed well for even synergizing with other... isn't good for synergizing with other electric-type Pokemon, isn't good for synergizing with other meals, and has better options already out there. What's interesting is, this is basically the Entei's ingredients list. I just ran my Entei for this exact same ingredient list on the Spore Mushroom Salad that I was talking about earlier, so that's an interesting thing. Now, Entei's going to be a lot more rare, and it's a skill specialist, but I just find that intriguing to talk about. We still don't know what its C ingredient is, but I genuinely don't think... Unless it's something absurd like 7 Slowpoke tails, no C ingredient could save this. Yeah. Vikavolt, coffee beans, mushrooms, and the honey, which isn't here. But I think that's pretty cool. I think that it's got a lot of potential. Unfortunately, with Bugberry, it doesn't have an island yet, but that's not as necessary for ingredient specialists. Definitely... probably going to be a new meta option with being the only mono coffee option. I think this is going to be the one most people are hunting the most for. And I think Aggron is like the good number 2. So if you was to list your hunt priorities for most people, now granted, based off what's in your box, you may be hunting different things. You may want something else, then what I'm going to recommend. But I'm going to list Vigavolt is probably top priority, followed by Aggron, and then Luxray is a Dex filler. So, that pains me to say. However, that does kind of line up with their sleep style requirements. Interesting. But, and also their cost to befriend as well. I didn't even notice that. Well, that is all I have for the news right now. More information will be coming out soon, probably. And I am going to be going to bed. So I hope you have enjoyed. Really, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the video. Maybe leave some comments about what you think their ingredient rates are going to be. And yeah, thank you.